What led the greatest empire of antiquity, known for its disciplined infantry, to invest in heavy cavalry? The answer lies in a series of battles in the East, where Rome faced enemies equipped with tactics and weaponry that challenged its supremacy. In this video, you'll discover how the cataphracts were born, how they evolved, and how they left behind a legacy that outlived the empire itself. Before Rome developed its own armored units, the idea of a heavily protected cavalryman was already a reality in the East. These warriors became known as cataphracts, mounted soldiers with their bodies covered in metal scales and armed with long lances, charging across the battlefield like moving walls. What set the cataphracts apart was the combination of full-body protection and powerful impact. Not only were the riders fully armored, their horses were too, making them a shock unit capable of breaking through enemy formations with the sheer force of a frontal charge. They were trained to strike at decisive moments, clearing the way for advancing infantry or auxiliary forces. The armor covering the horses was known as barding, made of overlapping plates that protected the neck, chest, and flanks. This significantly increased the unit's resistance to charges and projectiles, making it difficult for Roman infantry to neutralize them effectively. Additionally, the Parthians employed highly mobile mounted archers who rotated through skirmishes, wearing down their enemies while staying out of reach of infantry. This mix of agility and resilience created a tactical pattern that confused and exhausted their opponents. The famous Parthian shot, a technique in which the archer would retreat on horseback while firing accurately backward, was commonly used. The alternation between long-range harassment and coordinated charges maintained constant pressure on the enemy, leaving few clear openings for counterattack. Plutarch, describing the Parthian confrontations, wrote, "They were hard to hit but struck constantly. They never waited to be attacked, but attacked without pause." In 53 BC, Consul Marcus Crassus led an expedition against the Parthians, taking 7 legions to the region of Carrhae. The Roman troops were surrounded by mounted archers, who kept their distance and launched continuous attacks. As the hours passed, the soldiers began to lose formation and coordination. The Parthians used the terrain to their advantage, avoiding direct confrontation and wearing down the legions with long-range assaults. Their horse archers fired curved arrows using the Parthian shot technique, staying out of reach of Roman infantry. Crassus, failing to recognize the trap, hesitated to either retreat or launch a decisive attack. It was then that the cataphracts were unleashed. Their charges tore through the Roman lines. The infantry, weakened and lacking mobility, couldn't stop their advance. Shields and spears failed to absorb the impact. Crassus was killed. The legions were almost entirely wiped out, and the Roman standards were captured. As Cassius Dio wrote, "The Romans, pinned down by a rain of arrows and unable to advance, were crushed by a force that seemed unstoppable." After this defeat, Rome began seeking alternatives. Auxiliary troops were recruited from peoples with strong cavalry traditions. The empire started training its own horsemen, incorporating heavier armor and new techniques. These new Roman cataphracts were equipped similarly to their Eastern counterparts. Their training included the use of long lances, swords, and maces, along with constant riding practice. Maintaining these units was costly. Horses had to be specially prepared, armor had to be crafted and maintained, and proper conditions had to be ensured so these forces could be battle-ready. This reorganization wasn't immediate. At first, the Romans relied on allied units, such as the Sarmatians, who already had a tradition of armored cavalry. It was during the reign of Emperor Hadrian that the first records of regular Roman cataphracts appear, stationed along the empire's eastern frontier. This choice of location was no coincidence. In those regions, frequent clashes with the Parthians, and later the Sassanids, demanded a force capable of withstanding direct charges and responding with equal intensity. As Vegetius wrote in De Re Militari, "Cavalry, if well trained, can decide a battle with a single charge." Cataphracts were not deployed in just any situation. They depended on favorable terrain, open fields with enough space for a charge. Their strength lay in the initial impact. When that impact was properly executed, it created openings for other units to strike. In mountainous, forested, or uneven terrain, their mobility was compromised. Once dismounted, they became easy targets. That's why their use required tactical planning. These were not troops for long maneuvers or pursuits. They were meant for specific, decisive moments in battle. As Arrian noted while describing military exercises, any force, even the heaviest, is useless if it does not know where and when to act. Over time, Rome began to face economic and logistical challenges that made it unfeasible to maintain such heavy units on a large scale. Even so, the concept of armored cavalry did not disappear. With the decline of traditional legions and increasing reliance on auxiliary troops, cavalry started to play a more prominent role, especially in patrolling borders and combating mobile threats. This transition became more evident in the Byzantine Empire, the direct heir to Rome's military tradition. There, cataphracts were reorganized as clibanarii, still equipped with lamellar armor and long lances, but operating with greater flexibility alongside mounted archers and light infantry. In Western Europe, the image of the mounted and armored warrior directly inspired the rise of feudal cavalry in the Middle Ages. The Strategicon, attributed to Emperor Maurice, advised, "Cavalry must be maintained as a decisive force, for the breaking or final defense of a line depends on it. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps support our work here." There's another video on the screen waiting for you. Click it and keep exploring history with us. I'll see you there.